In a hurry, Shin dashes through the forest, realizing he's running late for an important day. Upon arrival, he meets two individuals who are waiting for him. One of them is Lim Do-won, a C-rank hunter with the fighter class, and the other is Kim Jimin, also a C-rank hunter with the fighter class. Shin apologizes for his tardiness. Shin, a D-rank support with the maker class, feels somewhat uneasy as it's his first time joining a dungeon raid. Despite having been with the guild for 3 months, he encourages himself and prepares to enter the dungeon. Inside, Moon Do-yoon, a B-rank hunter with the assassin class, asks Shin if this is his first dungeon raid. Shin confirms it's his first time as a support. Moon explains to Shin the importance of positioning for a support, emphasizing that they cannot engage in combat like other hunters. Shin needs to carefully choose where to be during the battle. Being too close to the action risks getting caught in allies' attacks, while being too far means they won't receive timely assistance if attacked. Moon advises Shin, as a maker, to maintain a safe distance and craft a dagger when given the signal. Shin asks if he needs any other equipment, to which Moon reassures him that for this relatively easy dungeon, there's no need to overexert himself. Lee Hyunwoo, a mage, detects mana presence and senses a monster inside the dungeon. Moon inquires about the findings, and Lee reports 3 small mana sources and 1 significant one, potentially a boss monster. Moon asks Shin how quickly he can create a dagger. Shin estimates about 20 seconds, but the dagger will last for less than a minute. Moon instructs him to begin crafting a dagger immediately. Their team gets ambushed by crystal lizards. Lim defends against the lizards with his shield, while Kim eliminates one of them. Lee casts fireballs, taking out the other 2 lizards. Shin is impressed by their skills and teamwork. Moon requests the weapons, and Shin promptly creates a dagger using his abilities, tossing it to Moon. Moon enhances the dagger with his shadow weapon technique and uses it to defeat the boss lizard. Shin reflects on the guild's strength and teamwork but feels saddened by his limited contribution. Moon inquires if Shin is injured, but he responds negatively and expresses his gratitude. Shin admits he doesn't feel very helpful. Moon explains that because of Shin's abilities, he's saved a considerable amount of money since his skills consume the weapons he uses. Lim suggests looting and departing, but suddenly the ground trembles, and a wall breaks, revealing a passageway leading elsewhere. They decide to explore this new passage and encounter an ice ogre. In a desperate attempt to escape, Shin flees, but the ogre swiftly dispatches all his guild members. The ogre delivers a powerful blow to Shin, who manages to rise and create a dagger, throwing it at the ogre, but it has little effect. The ogre strikes the ground, causing Shin to fall into the water. In a moment of despair and regret for becoming an awakened, a screen materializes, stating that he has fulfilled all conditions to become a player. Shin is shocked as a radiant light envelops him, and the screen displays a welcoming message to him. A new reward appears on the screen for Shin to investigate. Shin is initially confused but doesn't pay much attention to it. He clicks yes, and moments later, he emerges from the pit, wielding swords created by his mana, ready to face the ogre once again. The screen indicates that Shin will inherit memories from his previous life. Just as the ogre is about to attack, Shin looks up with a sharp glare and multiple swords materialize, attacking the ogre. Shin experiences a headache as he contemplates the unfamiliar memories embedded in his brain. The ogre retaliates, but Shin defends himself by conjuring a shield using his mana. Shin ponders over the ogre being a golem-type monster and considers that if his memories are correct, its weak points and defeat tactics would be the same. The golem-type monster doesn't have any specific weak points and can regenerate, but it can be defeated by attacking it from multiple angles simultaneously. Shin employs his grid world skill, explaining that the weapons created within the grid can be manipulated freely by the user. He creates several swords and launches an attack on the golem from all sides, shattering it into pieces. Shin realizes that he initially thought of the grid world as an auxiliary skill for quick creation, but as his proficiency grows, it can be used as an attack itself. The screen announces that the boss has been defeated. Shin remarks that he can't see the name of the dungeon or the monster's information. Suddenly, the mana from the golem gathers into an orb. The screen indicates that the passive skill of mana absorption has been activated. Shin reflects on his experiences, having gained memories from his future self who lived in a world destroyed by devastation. He checks his status screen, which displays all his skills. Shin states that he has become a player, a term given to a few chosen individuals who have awakened. Players have a blue screen visible only to them, and a mysterious entity known as the system controls it. Each player receives rewards that grant them skills distinct from other awakeners. Shin realizes that he had only heard about the system's convenience, but it truly is remarkable. He also discovers a new skill that he didn't possess in his previous life. He heads to where his teammates' corpses lie. At the Hunter Association headquarters, a girl questions her senior about allowing Shin to leave without any investigation, especially since he was the sole survivor among 5 people, despite being only a D-rank supporter. She adds that the dungeon gate has already vanished, preventing them from obtaining additional evidence. The man dismisses her opinion, stating that it's impossible to verify anything from a dungeon. He leaves, instructing them to call Shin in for further investigation. The man suspects there's something different about this case, as Shin remained composed during the interrogation. Shin checks his phone and discovers that the gate they entered was unconfirmed. He realizes that everyone had checked the gate bid form, which had an association stamp on it, implying that someone must have deceived them by impersonating the association. He scans the news and notices a common factor in all the incidents. They all involve players like Moon Do-yoon. Shin concludes that there's someone trying to erase the existence of future heroes, so he must conceal his abilities and prepare. He examines his skills to determine if he has any useful ones for hiding. A year had passed, and deep in a forest, a man engaged in a fierce battle with a monstrous werewolf-like creature. He attempted to strike the monster with his sword, only for it to shatter into pieces. The beast retaliated by throwing the man back to his teammates with a powerful punch. The man narrowly evaded the beast's subsequent attacks. This creature, known as a Null Lord, possessed a danger level of D and was impervious to magic. The man found it puzzling that a Null Lord would be present in an E-rank dungeon. Despite the party's reliance on magic, the Null Lord's exceptional physical abilities and magic immunity defied conventional logic, putting the entire party at risk of annihilation. The man realized that he was the only member capable of dealing pure physical damage, but his sword was broken. Regretting his decision to prioritize hiring a mage over acquiring a new weapon, he noticed a person mining ores nearby. It dawned on him that he still had a helper within his party, Shin. Wondering if Shin possessed the ability to create weapons, the man called out to him. Shin, the person mining, agreed to help but initially refused to create a sword. The man desperately exclaimed that their survival depended on defeating the Null Lord. Convinced, Shin placed a condition on his assistants. They must forget about his abilities and compensate him with the payment typically given to an average supporter. Utilizing his powers, Shin forged a sturdy sword. Concerned that Shin's inability to secure a support job might indicate the low quality of his weapons, the man voiced his worries. However, Shin assured him that the weapons he made would greatly aid them in clearing the dungeon. Meanwhile, at the Overkill Guild, one of the 3 major guilds in Korea, a girl entered the room and informed a man that the president of the Awakeners Association had requested their cooperation. The man inquired if it pertained to the dungeon with rank errors. Understanding the association's limited options due to the scarcity of Awakeners capable of entering a forcefully closed gate, he glanced at the news article featuring Shin's photograph, feeling a sense of familiarity. The girl reported that a D-rank dungeon had unexpectedly transitioned into a B-rank dungeon a few days prior, leading to public criticism of the association's failure to accurately analyze and declare dungeon ranks. The man questioned the girl about the progress of the task he assigned her, to which she replied that she couldn't find a maker within a rank or higher. Suddenly, another man entered and informed Taehyun that something had occurred. Inquiring about the nature of the incident, Taehyun was informed that the location provided by the association turned out to be a D-rank dungeon where some of their guild members had entered. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Taehyun decided to personally investigate, as he couldn't afford to lose any newcomers in his guild. Upon arriving at the closed gate, a woman thanked Taehyun for his presence. He inquired about the current situation and learned that 6 hunters were trapped within the dungeon for over 2 hours. Taehyun dropped his suitcase and requested a weapon from his secretary, Min, who used her ability as a subspace opener to produce a katana from her handbag. Taehyun utilized his trespass ability to cut open the gate and ventured into the dungeon, encountering reptile-like monsters. He discovered the corpses of lizard men and quickly proceeded deeper into the dungeon, assuming that his guild members had perished. To his astonishment, he found the members engaged in a powerful battle against the lizard men, all miraculously still alive. Just as one of the lizard men was about to land a fatal blow, a sword made from mana intercepted the attack. Taehyun turned around to find Shin standing there. Within the depths of the dungeon, Shin conducts a headcount of the individuals present and questions Taehyun about his presence. Shin reveals that he entered the dungeon accompanied by 9 others, prompting Taehyun to inquire about his purpose of being there. Suddenly, a lizardman launches an attack on one of the group members, placing their life in imminent danger. Tian swiftly intervenes, defending the individual with his swords. Observing the spare weapon that Tian had brought with him, Shin contemplates its usefulness. Tian fortifies his sword with fire and successfully eliminates the monster. However, the intense power of his ability causes the sword to shatter into fragments. Shin questions Tian regarding the frequency with which his weapons break when used. Utilizing his ability, Shin manifests a sword and instructs Tian to utilize it instead. Tian marvels at Shin's ability to create a weapon with a single gesture. Shin advises Tian to forget everything once they clear the dungeon, to which Tian initially refuses. Shin proposes that if Tian is unwilling, he can simply destroy the other weapons. Tian ultimately agrees to forget everything and accepts the sword from Shin. He proceeds to defeat the lizardmen one by one with his exceptional skills. As Tian slays the monsters, he ponders the fact that he merely blocked their attacks, yet their weapons were the ones that shattered first. Although his control over the weapon was impressive, the weapon itself proved to be remarkably sturdy. Determined to strengthen his abilities, Tian resolves to give it his all. He successfully vanquishes the monsters, astonished to find that the weapon remains unscathed. The guild members express their gratitude towards Tian and inform him that Shin had provided them with weapons to continue the fight, as their own weapons had been rendered useless. Curious about Shin's identity, Tian inquires, but Shin dismisses the importance, stating that he is merely a helper. Tian introduces himself, prompting Shin to reciprocate. Tian requests Shin's assistance in reaching the boss room, but Shin insists that he is only a helper. Tian explains that they cannot leave the dungeon until they defeat the boss, emphasizing the need for Shin to create additional weapons since no other weapons can withstand his skills. Shin asserts that his weapons are resilient and not easily breakable. Tian warns that due to the dungeon's error class, they must exercise utmost caution. Eventually, Shin agrees to accompany Tian. Together, they enter the boss room and discover the presence of a lizard king. Tian urges a swift end to the battle, expressing concern that Shin's weapon may break if the fight drags on. Shin reassures Tian that his weapon will not break and suggests that Tian can test its durability if he doubts it. The Lizard King launches an attack, initiating the battle. The Lizard King directs his spear at Shin and Tian, while his formidable beastly pet charges at them to attack. Quick on their feet, both Shin and Tian manage to evade the oncoming assault. Tian retaliates by using his powers to strike the lizard, pushing it back with a powerful blow. However, as he prepares for another attack, the Lizard King intervenes, leaping in between and engaging Tian in a fierce clash, their weapons colliding and forcing Tian back. Seated on the back of his pet lizard, the Lizard King commands it to breathe a stream of fire toward Tian. Reacting swiftly, Shin uses his abilities to create a protective shield, shielding Tian from the fiery attack. Tian, surprised by Shin's skill, remarks that Shin is a weapon maker. Shin counters by saying that a shield can also serve as a formidable weapon. Tian expresses his intention to ask Shin numerous questions once they escape from their current predicament, enhancing his sword with a fiery technique. Tian moves in for a swift strike against the Lizard King, who deploys the chains of his spear to grab Tian's sword, stalling his attack. Tian charges at the Lizard King, prompting Shin to implore him to stop playing around and fight seriously, while simultaneously crafting another sword for Tian's use. Tian wields the new sword, slashing the Lizard King's pet lizard and then hurling the sword at the Lizard King. The Lizard King narrowly dodges the blade but finds Tian suddenly at his side, delivering a powerful kick. Tian jumps to attack the Lizard King again, but this time, the Lizard King dodges, suffering only a minor injury to his hand. The Lizard King attempts to strike at Shin, but Shin intercepts the attack with his shield. Meanwhile, Tian approaches the Lizard King from behind. Outside the dungeon, the gate transitions from red to blue, and Shin, Tian, and the others emerge. Reporters swarm Tian with questions about the dungeon and the safety of everyone involved. One reporter asks if they sustained injuries, to which Tian responds that he is unharmed. The guild members express their gratitude to Tian for saving them. Shin announces his departure, explaining that he had received payment in advance, and then vanishes from the scene. The reporters inquire about how they managed to clear the dungeon, and Tian looks around for Shin but realizes he is gone. The guild members attribute their success to teamwork and Tian's assistance in defeating the enemies after their weapons broke. Tian attempts to credit the person who continuously supplied them with weapons and aided in their survival, but the members have already forgotten about him. Tihyun ponders if this was a unique skill, rental pay, reserved for a rank or higher makers. Determined to find Shin, he rushes off, leaving Hiso to assist with the search. As Shin walks away, Hiso approaches Tihyun, inquiring about the situation and what happened. Tihyun explains that he needs Hiso to help him locate someone, while Shin continues to move further away. Min informs Tihyun that she has successfully located Shin. She relays the information that Shin entered a D-ranked dungeon in Songpa-gu with a 5-member party around 1 o'clock. Curious about Tihyun's interest in Shin, Min questions why he would be interested in someone of D-rank status. Tihyun examines Shin's registration information, which states that he is a D-rank maker. However, Tihyun notices that Shin has the ability to use rental pay, even though he is just a D-rank maker. This leads Tihyun to believe that Shin is deliberately using this feature to conceal his true identity. Tihyun reflects on the time he wielded a sword made by Shin, realizing that he had never before experienced such power and durability. Despite encountering numerous blacksmiths claimed to be the best, their weapons always ended up breaking. Tihyun picks up a sword and tests its strength by imbuing it with fire and attacking a dummy. To his surprise, the sword shatters like all the others. Tihyun concludes that Shin's weapons are far from ordinary, considering that it typically takes a 5-member party about 4 hours to clear a dungeon. Tihyun calculates that there is still 1 hour remaining. He inquires about Min's schedule for the day. Min informs him that she has a meeting with Guildmaster Hyunmu at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, an armored individual effortlessly slays a goblin. Tihyun wonders if the weapon used was truly crafted by Shin. He recalls a moment when his own weapon broke, leaving him vulnerable. However, Shin's weapon proved to be exceptional. Tihyun expresses his gratitude to Shin for his invaluable assistance. On the other hand, Shin reflects on the fact that he used more mana than anticipated. He remembers the immense surge of mana he felt after defeating the golem. Leveraging his abilities, Shin creates a pickaxe, amazed at how his memories can aid him in such a way. He explains that creating is the basic skill of a maker, which allows them to produce specific objects. The quality of the weapon depends on the amount of mana used during its creation. Additionally, there is a new skill called Level of Understanding, which further refines the weapon's quality. Shin mentions that he had to train diligently in his past life to acquire this level of understanding. However, he still feels that something is lacking, and breaks some mana crystals in frustration. Shin acknowledges the difficulty of using creating and rental pay simultaneously. Moreover, he cannot afford mana equipment since his earnings as a helper are not sufficient. Shin checks his screen and notices that his mana absorption meter is only filled to 80%. He laments that he still needs to acquire the remaining 20% to receive his reward. Shin realizes that clearing a D-ranked dungeon only grants him 1% mana, so he contemplates the need to enter a higher ranked dungeon to accumulate more mana. However, he acknowledges the unpredictability of the difficulty in such dungeons, and without Tihyun's help the last time, he wouldn't have been able to clear the previous dungeon. After successfully clearing the dungeon, Shin prepares to leave but is stopped by someone calling his name. He turns around to find Tihyun standing there. Shin suspects that his rental pay did not work on Tihyun. Tihyun hands Shin a card from his guild, expressing his desire to have a conversation with him. Shin examines the card, realizing that it belongs to the Overkill Guild. He understands that he is not yet ready to get involved with such prominent guilds, so he declines the proposal, citing a lack of time, and walks away. Tihyun persists, stating that he only needs a few moments of Shin's time. Shin contemplates the effectiveness of his rental pay on Tihyun and ultimately agrees to talk with him. Shin and Tihyun sit together at a dining table. Shin inquires about Tihyun's reason for meeting with a D-rank supporter like himself, especially considering Tihyun's position as the guildmaster of Overkill Guild. Tihyun explains that due to his class as a berserker, he possesses overwhelming attack power and needs a weapon capable of withstanding the tremendous strain he puts on it. Despite traveling across numerous countries, all the weapons Tihyun used broke immediately after he applied his skill to them, except for one, the weapon crafted by Shin. Shin realizes that rental pay doesn't work on Tihyun, prompting him to be more cautious around high-level hunters. Tihyun extends an offer to Shin to join his guild, emphasizing that Shin would receive top-notch treatment and a contract fee of 10 billion. However, Shin declines the offer, stating that he has no intention of joining any guild and suggesting he will leave if Tihyun has nothing else to discuss. Min asks Tihyun about the reason for making such a generous offer to Shin. Tihyun explains that if Min had experienced what he went through when using the weapon, she would understand. It had been a while since he felt the scream of the weapon didn't reach his fingertips. With Shin's weapon, he felt like he could unleash his full power and the weapon would still hold up. Tian asks Min to calculate the total expense of the weapons he had ruined in 1 year. Min realizes that the cost of those weapons was indeed substantial because Tian's ability wouldn't activate unless the weapon met a certain standard. She admits that the contract fee was less compared to the amount spent on weapons. Tian stresses that no one except Shin possessed the ability to create such weapons, making him an invaluable recruit. Shin believes that it's too early for him to join one of the top 3 guilds and decides to wait, convinced that Tian will approach him again. Meanwhile, in a dungeon, a terrified man confronts a stranger and asks who he is. The enigmatic blue-haired man comments on the unusual nature of the situation, as most people in his position would beg for their lives. He wields a massive sword. When the armored man inquires why the blue-haired man suddenly wants to kill them, he responds that he will reveal his reason if they manage to defeat him. With menacing laughter, he urges them to attack him to avoid death. The man attempts to attack, but the blue-haired man swiftly kicks him, sending him crashing into a wall, and then beheads him. The blue-haired man expresses disappointment, stating that he had hoped for a more challenging fight. He takes a picture of the body, indicating that his collection has grown. Sensing an energy, he instructs the woman named Priestess to either conceal it or make it evident when she approaches. She apologizes, and the man suggests that the people in the dungeon were all weak and shouldn't have listened to that person. She cuts him off, reminding him not to go against the wishes of that person. He clarifies that he simply wanted things to be cleaned more thoroughly. The woman assures him that she will handle it, as it is her specialty, and then proceeds to remove one of her nails. The executor reminds her of their agreement to allow him to fight if an S-rank hunter arrives. She assures him she will contact him and uses her blood to create a magic circle, summoning a demon, a massive beast that emerges from the ground. Elsewhere, outside a dungeon, Shin encounters Tian in disguise and questions his presence. Tian explains that he came to raid the dungeon because one of his guild members fell ill. Shin realizes that Tian came for him earlier than expected and needs to adjust his plans. Shin, Tian, and the others venture into the dungeon. Tian inquires why Shin didn't join the guild. Shin responds that he had already declined the offer and didn't wish to discuss it further. The individuals ahead of them discuss an auction for a C-ranked gate, mentioning that the Hyunmu guild acquired it. This news surprises Shin. Tian asks if Shin is interested in purchasing gates. He explains that if Shin joins the Overkill Guild, Tian can easily obtain gates above B rank for him, as larger guilds have privileges. He elaborates that being part of this guild not only provides better job opportunities, but also higher income and rewards compared to other awakeners. Additionally, they gain access to various exclusive benefits, such as special gate entrances. Tian suggests that Shin must also have a goal he is striving for, and offers his assistance in achieving it. However, Shin once again declines, stating that Tian is only making the offer because no one has ever rejected him before. Tian wonders if Shin's rejection is related to his past experience with the Daewon Guild. As they enter the dungeon, they encounter spider webs everywhere. One of the group members reveals that they are in the territory of Legion spiders, which live in groups. Tian advises Shin to stay close for protection, as it is their duty to safeguard the helper. They come under attack from the spiders. Initially, they easily dispatch some spiders, but the number of spiders exceeds their expectations. Tian eliminates some spiders and prepares to assist the others, but Shin insists on handling the remaining spiders himself. Shin walks directly towards the spiders. Utilizing his grid world skill, he realizes that his low mana prevents him from creating multiple swords like he did in the battle with the golem. Instead, he crafts a sword with a tail attached to it, manipulating it to strike and kill each spider individually. Tian is shocked by Shin's powerful attack. So that is it for this video. Guys, hope you enjoyed it. So if you like the video, then hit that like button and leave a comment for the next part. Most important, subscribe and press the bell icon for notification. I will meet you in the new video. Till then, bye.